And now to discuss more on that, we welcome Marcin Kaczorowski of the Memory of Nations Foundation. Welcome to TVP World.
Thank you for inviting me.
So today is a significant day. It's right in the middle of two very significant holidays here in Poland. Tell us about, perhaps let's begin with the Polish National Flag Day, because it's actually a little bit more complex and carries a lot more significance than probably most Poles know.
It's sometimes, I'd say, even slightly forgotten fact, because as we know, after the change of the system to the democratic system, we tended to forget the heroes that marched, and we should call them heroes, even though they were under communistic command. Those who left Gulag to avoid starvation and marched side by side, the Red Army tried to help Warsaw Uprising, where they were decimated by the Germans because the Soviets didn't give them proper artillery support. They were used as Soviets as cannon fodder frequently. 200,000 Poles marching side by side the Soviets, eventually reaching Berlin. 185,000 Poles reached Berlin at the end of April, supporting the Soviet Second Army and participating in the siege of Berlin. 12,000 Poles participate directly in the assault, in the attack on Berlin, where they act as fusiliers. There's also supporting the tanks. Also, there's Polish howitzer brigade, and they use downrange fire to directly support Polish stormtroopers operating in the heart of the capital of Germany, the hated enemy. And they go there, and they openly admitted that actually they were capable to avenge Warsaw, for example. And even though they were not doing what the Nazi Germans were doing in Warsaw, so they tended to feed the starving German children instead of bringing their revenge on the civilians, which the Soviets did, of course, in the most atrocious way at times. However, the Polish flag finally waves on the part of the front where Poles operated, so Tiergarten, Siegessäule, and also the Brandenburger Gate. So these are the symbolic, iconic places symbolizing previously the might of Nazi Germany and then its loud downfall. And this is quite ironic, isn't it? 11 German divisions around Warsaw, 1939, and even more Polish soldiers visiting Berlin in 1945. So as some Poles put it, they started it and we finished.
Right. And as we know, the Flag Day is actually not established that long ago. May 2nd, why this particular date?
Yes, exactly the second, on the 2nd of May, yeah, those flags wave. So I would say that was the best reason, but also the Labor Day, which tended to be dismissed after 1989, and we had the worst associations because Poles were forced actually to participate during communistic times. But after all, it's the International Labor Day, right. So it
has a little bit of tricky association there, right?
Yes, absolutely, and I think that, well, many Poles would prefer to forget about, especially 1940s, 1950s times when it was harsh duty to participate, or else.
Right.
Or else. So then it fits perfectly, however, between the first and then the third, which I think out of the two became obviously the more important one. So the attempt to save the First Republic from three powerful enemies, and well, the most enlightened constitution in Europe for sure, and it definitely would be successfully implemented, because as we know, after the first year of after the enforcement of the constitution by the Sejm and the Polish king and the Polish parliament and the Polish king, about 90% of the citizens of the republic were satisfied with how it was operating. But well, then again, Poland was preventively destroyed by its powerful absolutist tyrants,
right.
So Prussia, Russia, and Austria.
Indeed. Well, I just wanted to ask, because every flag is made up of colours that bear some significance for each country. So perhaps you could just tell us what is the significance of the white and the red here in Poland?
There's of course, the white symbolizes freedom, and the red symbolizes the blood of previous generations. So the bloodline, we can say. Some say that the color above is a more important one. Yeah. So the freedom above all. Yes. Also worth mentioning, why is it so sacred for Poles? I think probably people, especially in Western, in the United States as well, might find it hard to imagine that during the World War II there was death penalty for displaying Polish flag, and Germans would enforce this penalty until the end of the war, when they were already losing the war. 1945, you still hear about this and that town where 8, 10, 20 people were shot, simply because they thought that our side is winning, and they started waving the flags. Germans catch them and shoot them just for the flag. So this is incredibly sacred thing for all Polish people, I think, in Poland and abroad.
Right. Speaking of Polish people abroad, we also know that today is also the Polish Diaspora Day. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what are some of the more significant contributions of the Poles living abroad?
Very good question. Let's start from the numbers. So there's some estimate that there are between 15 and 20 million of Poles, citizens of different countries of Polish origin. Most importantly, the United States, 9, even to 10 million. And Poles have had very significant contributions since the beginning of since the first settlers started, to our first Anglo-Saxon settlers. I wouldn't say that about the Spaniards, but well, who knows? Poles were also mixing with the Scandinavian Vikings. As we know, Ericsson visited Americas in the 11th century, so perhaps some of the first people who set their foot on the American soil were Poles. But that's just, let's not take this hypothesis very seriously. But Poles contributed to the foundation of Jamestown, where they manufactured glass. And then there was massive inflow of Poles in the 19th century, 20th century, usually very poor people from the south of Poland looking for a better future, which Martin Scorsese sometimes depicts in his movies, of course, looking for the promised land. So they would come with the other waves of the Irish, Italians, and other poor people who hope to find a better future. Excellent engineers and farmers went to Argentina and Brazil, and there are over 1 million people of Polish origin. The elite of Polish society would later form the elite of French society after the waves of Polish patriots who came to France after different uprisings, but also after Napoleonic Wars. As we know, the Poles played an important role, fighting side by side Napoleon, who is present, of course, in the Polish national anthem. Which brings us to the subject of the most peculiar group of people calling themselves Poles, namely the people living in Haiti. Who are, yes, they are mixed blood. They are actually looking more like Caribbean people, but many of them have blue eyes, and even the girls still wear kind of dreadlocks or braids, similarly to how Polish women would wear them at the beginning of the 19th century. Namely, these are descendants of the Polish regiment who was sent by Napoleon to suppress the rebellion of the slaves in Haiti. But since Poles treated those rebels better, and some of them switched sides and joined the rebellion, they were allowed to stay, even though the French regiment got completely massacred. So these people today, well, essentially black Caribbeans with blue eyes, Polish braids.
Right.
calling themselves Polonaise.
I also have a very interesting factoid about the Polish diaspora's contribution in the entertainment sector, actually. Soon after World War II, when Hollywood is just up and coming, you know, the Americans usually they film with like larger than life superhero figures. The French usually they make films that are very artistic. Everyone pretends to understand, but they don't really do. It's actually the Poles that brought this genre of film that depicts everyday life of ordinary people and their life and tribulations. So if as one of you guys watching out there who is a friend, I'm fans of genre like Friends or How I Met Your Mother, you know who to thank.
Oh, wow, I had no idea. Wonderful. Well, so many different threads. I had no idea. That's wonderful. Well, Marcin Kaczorowski, Memory of Nations Foundation, thank you so much for joining us on TVP World. That's been a fascinating insight into the Polish diaspora around the world.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.